Alliteration. What is alliteration? Alliteration is a poetic device where the same sound repeats at the beginning of a set of words. You may have heard it defined this way in the past: the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of each word in a sentence. But this is not quite the right definition, because it does not have to repeat in each word, and it does not have to be a consonant. So this is the definition. It's a poetic device where the same sound, whether that's a consonant, whether that's a vowel, repeats at the beginning of a set of words, not necessarily in each and every word in a sentence. So here's the most commonly used example. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. The P sound is what's repeated all the time, but notice it's not exactly in every single word. A and of don't have that sound. In this case, there is a lot more repetition than in other cases of alliteration. But this is the first example. Example number 2. The early bird gets the worm. The sound, which you can see here, notice you're going to say, wait a second, they're spelled with different letters. That's right, but they're all pronounced It's the sound, not necessarily the letters. So the early bird gets the worm. And notice, it's not repeated in every single word, but it is repeated in a set of words. So why do people use alliteration? Well, number 1, it helps in memorization. A lot of companies, a lot of fictional characters' names, and even the stage names of celebrities use alliteration to help people remember the names quickly. And there you go, there are the examples. Coca-Cola, Best Buy, even sports teams, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fictional character names like Clark Kent, you see a C and a K, but they both make a K sound, so they're an example of alliteration. Even celebrities, when they want to be remembered easily, they change their names to take on stage names, like Marilyn Monroe and Hulk Hogan. Both of these are not their real names. Marilyn Monroe was originally named Norma Jean Mortensen, and Hulk Hogan was Terry Jean Bollea. But they changed their names and used alliteration to help the audiences that they were entertaining remember their names. So number 1, alliteration helps in memorization. Number 2, it beautifies a work of writing or poetry. It makes it look better. It makes it pleasurable to listen to whatever's being read or heard. And number 3, it's forceful. It helps people get a point across or remember quickly, and it goes back to memorization. That's why people use alliteration. Especially if you're trying to emphasize a point and you use alliteration, people not only remember what you say, but it also helps them think about it easier. So here's an example. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. From Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And he uses alliteration here. So again, to help people remember what he says, but also to deliver the point more forcefully, so people can really think about what he's trying to say here. And it's important, because he wants people to think of others based on their characters and not on their skin color. Example number 4. This comes from a poem. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. This poem has several examples of alliteration in these few lines. In the first part, the W sound is repeated, the letter W. While I pondered weak and weary. Then in the second line, the K sound is repeated, over many a quaint and curious volume. And in the third line, the letter N is repeated, while I nodded, nearly napping. And this adds to the beauty of this poem and also the cleverness. People can remember it easier. People can really take to heart what's being said because of this structure. Trivia. Alliteration was the main type of poetic device used in Old English, Middle English, and Germanic poetry. In our English poetry today, rhyme and meter are the main types of poetic devices that we use to make poetry. But in Old and Middle English and Germanic poetry, alliteration was. It was a special type of structure called alliterative verse. Now, this was used by J.R.R. Tolkien in his books The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, because he was influenced by Germanic writings. So here's an example from his book The Fellowship of the Ring, The Song of Beren and Luthien. The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock umbels tall and fair. So the letter L repeats in the first part of the first line. The leaves were long. In the second part of that line, the ger sound repeats. So the grass was green. And in the second line, it's a vowel that repeats. Again, remember what I said at the beginning. It's not simply consonants repeating, but the vowels too. So the hemlock umbels, tall and fair. Now, sometimes you can use letters that sound close to create the alliteration. And this is one case with the vowels. You can click here to watch more videos on poetic devices. Thanks for watching. Until next time.